My name is Mullaniff and I'm working as the Assistant Chief Services Officer with the NCBI. For our viewers and our listeners today, that is actually the National Council for the Blind all the way over in Ireland. And one of the services at NCBI, which I have been heavily involved in over the last number of years, is the Library Access Service. And about 3 years ago, we sought to go international to find best practice solutions to a major problem we were having when it came to blind and vision impaired students accessing their curriculum in a timely format. That quest indeed has brought us to Benetech, who we ultimately partnered with to create the largest digital library in Ireland, which is now called Bookshare Ireland. And I'm delighted to say that we've been joined here today by Katy Beehler, who is the product manager in global literacy at Benetech, who has played a huge role in bringing Bookshare to Ireland. So Katy, maybe we'll just start off by you telling us a little bit about yourself and indeed Bookshare.
Yeah, thanks, Erin. Thank you for the introduction. As you said, I am product manager in global education and literacy at Benetech. I came to software product management by way of the publishing industry, actually, and have worked in software as service products for almost 10 years now. I joined Benetech about 2 years ago and am one of the lead product managers on Bookshare. Our Bookshare initiative is the world's largest digital library of accessible ebooks for people who read differently. With Bookshare, people with dyslexia, blindness, low vision, cerebral palsy, and other print disabilities can access over 950,000 ebooks in formats like audio plus highlighted text, Braille, and large font. On the Bookshare team, I have the great privilege of helping to create another way for our Bookshare members to read their books by adding a smart speaker option. And I also work with our Bookshare International Library partners, and that seems to be working out pretty okay. Right, Erin?
I knew you were going to come with that question. No, it's going so well, Katy. At this point in time, we have about 700,000 accessible titles on there, and we're adding through our publishers and indeed our international publishers about 7,000 titles a month. So even from our own metrics, we know that's typically, we're turning books around or an entire reading list around in about a week. It used to take about 6 months. So the outcomes are phenomenal. And again, I suppose all I can personally say really in this circumstances, the partnership with Benetech has been one of the best partnerships that we've actually forged in recent years. And indeed, when we started working on this project around the same time, we started to look at Alexa skills and what we could do around smart devices. And I'm glad to say that today we've just gone out on a pilot to recruit 1,500 blind and vision impaired people on the feasibility of using smart speakers to deliver services over the tyranny of distance. And I suppose we're thinking of those who've been most underserved by our organization over the years. So maybe Katy, you might tell us a little bit about why Benetech is looking to a smart speaker solution for people, particularly who read differently.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I have had some really exciting discussions about how voice technology can really engage our members. I know we've talked a little bit about that pilot program. Bookshare sees tremendous value in investing in affordable consumer technologies whose application can be broadly used to enhance the lives of our members. And we think that voice technology is a really natural fit. It aligns with our mission. And we want people to read the way that they want to read, and this just gives them another option. Many of our Bookshare members use audiobooks or text with audio read along as their main reading format. So when we started looking into ways to enhance the Bookshare user experience with voice technology, we found that a Bookshare Reader for smart speaker would be actually a really good introduction for our members on that technology. At Bookshare, we're using voice tech, AI, and machine learning to really enhance the way our members' reading experience is going. And for example, we're using AI and machine learning to identify math equations in books that don't already have alt text for accessibility. And this tool that we built actually finds these equations in the images and injects math alt text to describe that image. And we're also creating math ML alongside of that, which is really friendly for screen readers, so that the math equations, when it's not already available in the original source text, actually is surfaced for the users. And on the smart speaker side, the voice technology just seems a little bit more innately inclusive for all of our member groups, from the young students to the seniors. We can leverage the other Bookshare initiatives, like the one I was just discussing for STEM, to make the ebooks more accessible for our members, like adding those audio components, and then add a way for our users to interact completely by voice. And we're creating an intuitive reading experience that doesn't rely on visual components, which is really key for our groups, obviously. And so we're finding that it's particularly important actually in our senior community, where users are a little less familiar with technology, perhaps in general, or because they're losing sight later in life and they're trying to adapt to accessible technologies that they've never had to learn before. This is one of the biggest drivers for us to introduce ourselves to smart speaker technology and voice tech at Benetech. We're designing our Bookshare Reader for any device, including smart speakers, and we're keeping these communities in mind as we're designing that product for them.
Amazing. It's amazing. And Katy, I suppose just from our viewers and listeners' perspective, I suppose what's the benefit for designing for those communities in particular?
Yeah, great question. First of all, it's our main priority, right? They're our community, and designing for them, for the people who read differently due to print disability, is our core business. And they're our main stakeholders, and what they need, we want to deliver. So we could have gone into designing smart speaker technology or any of our products without consulting these groups or running focus groups or working with community advisors, but that doesn't really make sense for us. So we ultimately needed to design a platform that is accessible for a broad audience. We have members who are young students, and we have members who are seniors, and they may all share a commonality of print disability, but they don't necessarily share the same experiences. So that's what we like about the smart speaker and voice technology, is that it feels a little bit more inclusive from the outset. It has limitations, certainly, but it addresses a lot of the hurdles we've had to overcome in the past for other device design. And I see voice tech as an accessible technology in many ways. First, the devices seem to be generally more budget friendly. It does rely on a stable internet connection, of course, to talk to your device, but the device itself is more affordable than, say, a laptop or mobile device, or certainly many of the AT accessible technology devices that are out there. Second, conversation in general comes a little bit more easily to many of us. So speaking to a device in natural language, to just a little bit more tech friendly, right? It's a little easier for those less tech savvy individuals to access the great tools that we're really excited about introducing on smart speaker devices. And certainly I know you are as well. And, you know, thinking about those people who we're designing this product for, the blind and low vision community specifically, people who read differently, we want to address two main groups on the Bookshare side. Our students, who might be more tech focused maybe, but are actually getting another way to read their Bookshare books. And then also, you know, thinking about the senior community. So first, for the students, we created a persona for the Bookshare Reader who could speak to those young students. And then we had to also think about how we could create that persona for adults and the senior members to make that interaction feel more natural for all of them. And our audience who really influenced the design of our Bookshare Reader upfront are the seniors who lost their sight later in life, those who I just mentioned. We understand that introducing new technology at any stage of life is challenging, but what we found is that the voice technology is more innately inclusive for this group. The ability to speak to the device instead of having to learn how to use a screen reader to navigate a new site, for example, is something we think will be really advantageous. Because of this, we've designed our Bookshare Reader skill to be a complete voice experience so that users will be able to discover and read their books using only voice. Do you find that this is a similar experience for those in your community at NCBI? I know you've been working closely with the pilot program and you're starting to learn a little bit more of how they're adapting to voice technology.
Yes, Katy, it's actually really exciting, and there's probably a day where you know, when blind vision impaired people, they come through our door and we typically look at, you know what, residual vision and support them to maximize that vision, and we might typically, you know, issue low vision aids and various devices to help them remain independent. But I can actually see a day in the not too distant future where, you know, we will be providing smart devices, you know, I talked earlier on about the pilot, and it's a huge pilot, and again, we're looking to partner in this space with other organizations that are thinking like us and thinking like Benetech as well. So much so that we're working on what we call a smart hub. And essentially, we want to be able to get to a point, you know, where blind vision impaired people will have multiple channels and multiple opportunities to access the services of the organization, and to be able to use voice to ask questions, you know, of what technology is there to that they can avail of that will support them to you know, age in place and live more independently. For many of our service users to be able to come in and perhaps use their own voice to connect to various classes, to befriend, to meet other people, maybe who are living with similar eye conditions, but in other areas. Soon enough, our own service user will be able to make appointments, come straight through to our CRM system, and that will automatically be set up, and they will instantly get a call back then as well. I think there's infinite possibility, and it's really, really, really exciting. And again, you know, it's really opening the organization up in as many channels as possible to our own key beneficiaries. So look, Katy, let me ask you there, you know, I'm conscious that we're coming probably to the end here, you know, what's available now for Bookshare, and maybe what can users expect when using Bookshare smart speaker skills?
Yeah, great question, Aaron. So today we have a beta open for Bookshare Reader on Alexa only, and we are aiming to get a version 1 release out later this year. And then we'll follow the Alexa release with a Google action, hopefully in the coming year, probably in 2022. Bookshare members can currently use bookshare.org to add books to a smart speaker reading list. So it is going to the website and then coming back to the voice experience in the beta. And they can listen to any Bookshare audiobook on their Alexa device. So the skill will keep track of the reading progress for each book on that list, and then allows the members to pick up where they left off for them. So if I'm reading a book and I come back to the skill, it'll say, oh, would you like to continue reading where you left off, which makes it feel much more natural, right? And once they, you know, start reading multiple books, it'll just keep track of the last read, but it still will always know where you left off in any given book, which is really great. And then you can, once you're in the book, you can skip forward, go back within the chapters and kind of navigate within the text, and then have, you can come back out and say, hey, Alexa, would you read, you know, all the books that I have on that list, so that you can understand what your whole library is, right? And you can use the typical commands, of course, that Alexa has, like stop, pause, and resume while you're reading. So you can kind of interact with the device there too. Mm-hmm.
It's incredible. I think the days of potentially lugging huge school bags of voluminous Braille books around, you know, there's an inevitability there on that front, as important as Braille is. But maybe while I still have you, maybe tell me what's next for Bookshare Reader for Alexa in particular.
Yeah, absolutely. So in version 1, what we're expecting to do is have the ability to set the playback speed of the audiobook, so that members can set their preferred reading rate for books using text-to-speech or human narrated audio. So that's one of the biggest requests that we've had with the community groups and the advisors who we've been working with, is that it's really important to be able to set that playback speed so that you can listen at the rate that is the most comfortable for you. So it might be slower for some individuals. And typically, I think in our communities, we're finding much faster. People want to read at a faster rate than the standard that comes out. We're also looking to add some list management functionality within the skill. So right now, I said you have to go to bookshare.org and add the books to your reading list. But what we want is for our members to have a comprehensive experience within the voice skill itself. So we're going to take on some automatic adding of books to reading lists. So we do have a lot of users who go from the website or mobile apps, maybe they're on the go and they have their preferred technology that they've been using for years, right, to listen to Bookshare books. And we want to be able to make that transition easier for them, so they can pick up on the books at their home if they're using their Alexa at home. So just making sure that that transition is really, really sound. And then we also want to, like I said, come back to that voice in whole concept. So we know that a lot of our members are counting on Bookshare to create smart speaker applications that really will allow them to search for and discover new books while using voice, add those books to their reading list, listen to the books, you know, never go to another app, never have to go to the website. And this is really key for our future development. So that's what I'm really looking forward to, is getting that whole comprehensive voice experience together. And just thinking about the future, and we kind of touched on a little bit, But I'm also really excited to start thinking about how we can use voice tech to reduce the impacts on like social isolation. We've talked a little bit about that before, Aaron, maybe not today, but it's so important. And I'm just curious, where do you think this could go for communities like ours and like NCBI's? Like, where can we, you know, really help and amplify things for our communities?
I think it's a shame we didn't have this over the line pre-COVID, because I can tell you that COVID-19 has had a huge impact and a negative impact on many of our service users. And we did some of our own research in 2020, and we found that 1 in 5 blind vision impaired people hadn't even left their homes. So again, that loss of touch, or that person who would typically come and sight guide you and take you out, you had lost due to the restrictions and keeping the 2 meters. So again, I'm looking forward and I'm thinking, you know what, the ability, you know what, to be able to befriend, and perhaps, you know, when we're building on the technology in itself, particularly with the latest developments around the Show 10, where you have that screen, so the ability for someone to come in and clip into someone's living room and to be able to connect with them, or as I said earlier on, to create those peer groups, you know, to offset that isolation, which it can be devastating. So look, I think it's so exciting, and voice already is and going to continue to be a game changer when it comes to creating even greater equity of access, but also overcoming all of those barriers, you know, that impede people's participation in society as well. So, and I think, you know, with the out of the box or baked in accessibility, it really is removing many of these barriers. So, you know what, not having to click on buttons, again, the ability, and this is so important, you know, the ability to instantly dictate messages, you know what, and emails, to shop, to set alarms, to make medical appointments, to order medication, again, without, you know what, having that dependency that's typically been there as well. So again, it, you know, the smart devices are really empowering on another level, you know, and I suppose it's kind of in the ethos and in the keeping of what at least NCBI is about as an organization. And again, I think, Katy, you've mentioned it, you know what, they're affordable. Typically, you have to pay a premium for or a privilege for having that accessibility, you know, and I think it's so exciting. I'm also conscious of time, so Katy, I'm going to leave it there. And I really want to thank you, Katy Beehler, Product Manager in Global Education and Literacy, for what was a really interesting conversation on the future adoption of voice and smart technology, and indeed its potential positive impact for many people who have been traditionally challenged when it comes to accessing information, education, and mainstream services.
Oh, thank you, Aaron. This was really great. It was my pleasure.
Thanks, Katy.